Buzz, big news today with the Broncos with Haas and Kelly. The brawl outside of the hotel. What have you got for us on that?
I worked on this story last night with Peter Bedell at the Courier Mail, and after the game against the Bulldogs 2 weeks ago, they were at the Ibis Hotel. Albert Kelly has had, here it is here.
Why am I not going to step on you?
You can hear a bit of the...
Why am I not going to step on you?
Yeah, look, it happens, I said, at the Ibis Hotel where the Broncos were staying. It happened in the foyer. I'm told Payne Haas hadn't been drinking and Albert was the one who was behaving poor. All he did was step on his new white shoes, apparently. Very trivial thing to be throwing punches about, or was it a punch? It was certainly a shove. Look, I think on the scandal meter, it's probably a 6.5 out of 10. I don't think it's...
Six and a half?
What do you think it is?
Oh, it's a storm in a teacup.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Look, it's a bad look. They'll both cop a fine each for bringing the game into disrepute. Albie Kelly's fighting out of his weight division, starting to rumble around with Payne Haas.
My problem with this incident, it's a 6.5 because it happened in a public foyer of a hotel where an NRL team's staying. There could have been people there. Someone was there to film it. And it's a bad look for the game from a front row forward who's belting someone half his size, who took on police officers last year and intimidated them. He's on a good behaviour bond with the Queensland Police. He's lucky that's a 6.5.
I don't think it's much, Buzz. I honestly don't. Like, I get it's a story and it's concerning and it's part of the fabric of the game now, whether we like it or not. But Albert Kelly was drunk. He's an A-grade pest when he's had a few drinks. It went back to this old schoolyard mentality where brand new shoes are going to step on them and scuff them up. And the only way he could discourage Albert Kelly from continuing it in his drunken state was to give him a whack. And
yeah, but
in isolation, Buzz, that's not a 6.5. That's a 1.5.
Well, I'll tell you what
when
concerns
you stack
me.
his rap sheet up.
Can I finish? Well, what concerns me is the fact he was sober. And when you're sober and you haven't had 15 beers like Albert's obviously had, you do stupid things when you've had too many. There was no excuse for what the bloke's half his size.
If he was Pestosaurusing him, though, if he's all over him...
But you don't whack him with a left.
It wasn't really a whack.
Yeah.
Look, I get that, Buzz, but the other part of this, to me, this is, OK, we see an incident, let's find the narrative to suit whatever our agenda is. Does it mean the Broncos are in trouble? Does it mean Payne Haas is unhappy at the Broncos and wants out? People are applying it to whatever they want. The fact is you had a drunk bloke come up, start annoying a guy who didn't want his brand new shoes stepped on. And
it's not an excuse to hit someone.
Look, I get that. But let's also be mindful of sometimes where these guys come from and... No, what are you on about?
Well...
What do you want him suspended for games?
What are you on about?
No, I don't want him suspended
what's the issue?
for games, but I've said my piece on him, and I don't think he wants to be at the club, Kenty. And I think... I'm not saying this was anything deliberate.
There's no way they are connected. There's no way this is connected to what his future is at the club. This is an isolated incident where it's young, testosterone-fueled men, one of them filled with alcohol, who just had I wouldn't even call it a disagreement. Like, these guys get in rooms, in the fair income stakes, get in rooms, and they'll wrestle, and they're going over furniture, and all sorts of things happen.
With no cameras around.
Let's go to the next player.
Yeah, but of course they do, mate.
It happens. Listen, I don't think this has anything
What
like
do
you
you
said.
rate it on my meter?
I reckon it's a 3.
Oh,
it's just there you go, just to look after you. Payne Haas, I don't think it has any correlation with him wanting to leave the club. No. Nothing whatsoever.
I don't either.
But it is a little bit of a concern that you got two players in a public forum going toe-to-toe just for team harmony.
Which is why they'll get fined.
Exactly.
Which is why they'll get fined.
Again, what does it do for the culture of the Broncos, and what checks were done on Albert Kelly before he joined the club as a $120,000 halfback with a long history in the NRL of misbehaviour, which forced him to go to the Super League? Why did the Broncos sign him?
Because they needed a halfback.
Yeah, but Kenty, don't they need to rebuild a culture too?
Yeah, look, I get that, Buzz, and look, there'll be disciplinary action because of that, okay? It's one of those things, look, in an ideal world, no, you don't want it happening, but it happened. It doesn't mean it's symbolic of a bigger problem at the club. It doesn't mean it's symbolic of a crisis at the club. It doesn't mean it's symbolic of Haas wanting to leave. Haas has come home. He was out with family and friends having dinner in Sydney. He was not drinking. He's come back to the hotel and his brand new white shoes have just bedazzled Albert Kelly, who couldn't help himself. Like, how does that get translated
I'm
into...
I'm worried about you that you'll become a defender of bad boys.
I'm not defending bad boys.
I sat at home last week in dismay at your defence of Mitch Barnett and the elbow.
Every now and then, someone needs a smack in the mouth. Not supposed to say it in the modern world, but it's the truth.
Big call, Kenty.
Well, look, it's the only thing that discouraged Albert Kelly.
Yeah. He looked like he was being a pest.
The Broncos have got a bit going on, though, haven't they? Like this incident, that's an isolated incident, but when you look at their form on the field and the fact that we're not seeing a whole lot of improvement in
you'd like to see that much
four
fight on the
games of the
field.
season.
I'll say that. If you're Kevin Walters, you say, where's your fight in the game?
Do you think Kevin Walters is the man to rebuild the Broncos' image?
I think the jury's still out, Buzz. I think this is the first year where he's finally got things going the way he wants. And he started the first 2 rounds and we all thought, well, hang on, we're starting to see a bit of life in the Broncos. We're starting to see what we expected to see. And the last 2 weeks have been disappointing. So they have to turn around what is a worrying turn in form after their opening couple of rounds. So, look, the answer to your question right now is too early to tell.
They're in a lot of trouble. I mean, they come out rounds 1 and 2. They're a young team who haven't had a hell of a lot of success, so they rode that confidence. They were bouncing around. They lose games 2 and 3, look, very poorly.
3 and 4.
Sorry, 3 and 4 after that, very poorly. They've got the Roosters and Panthers coming up. So I can't see them beating the Roosters or the Panthers in the next 2 weeks.
No.
So they're in a big hole.
Well,
they're in
2
some
and
trouble.
4 looks a lot different from where they were a fortnight ago when it was 2 and 0. Like, you don't want to be losing.
Do you have
4
any
in a row.
confidence looking at their performance and saying, okay, I can see them improving in the next couple of weeks? I can see scope around the side they've got and the players in those key positions, taking that team to another level.
You're right. But are we still talking about this in reference to this incident here, or are they separate? Because I don't connect them. I don't think this has got.
No, I don't either.
Any connection to how they're playing at the moment.
That'll be gone by tomorrow.
I think the bigger problem's on field for me. I mean, we all thought the quick solution would have been Adam Reynolds, and after 2 rounds, he was already the buy of the year, and South said it was a disaster that South had let him go. Now, I'm looking at Adam on the weekend. He looks frustrated. He looks puzzled, and he looks like he had one individual brilliance that he had to do by himself to orchestrate that try. Yeah. But they got big problems from what I can see.
You know, 2 sides they should beat every day of the week are the Cowboys and the Warriors. And they've got rolled by both of them.
Though?
Just on being the Broncos and their first 2 wins of the season. They're a better side.
Broncos aren't the Broncos anymore, Buzz. That's part of their problem.
They were the first 2 rounds, mate. Then they ran into 2 sides they should be.
They got a wooden spoon in 2020 and then they battled last season. They're not the powerhouse club that they once were.
And they're still fighting back, and they still haven't got their roster 100% right.
Big job for